Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday. I can't believe it's been 3 weeks since the last time I did this. Where does the time go? Some things will never change. I think I'm going to be asking that until I'm not able to ask it anymore. Anyway, I hope you're all well. As you can see, I have decided to do another demonstration. And the reason for this one is because I am just getting to the very end of the Jubilee creatures. It's been quite a month, and I want to thank everybody who has requested a wee creature, who has supported it, who has made nice comments about them and all the rest of it. The Jubilee celebrations have been long continuing in Blue Pit Mill. So I have 6 more hedgehogs and 5 more foxes to make. And I should finish them by, what day is today? Tuesday. So I should finish them by Thursday at the latest, but I'm very much hoping that tomorrow, if I can just get my head down and get on with it. Anyway, now I'm doing my usual, I keep forgetting to take a photograph of how my setup is here, but basically I can only see your comments sideways because my phone is sideways. This will make sense. I know that you're looking at this when I'm sideways, there's my hands, but it will make sense when I upload it to YouTube. That's why it's best to do it this way. So hello, we have Lorna on the call. Hello, Lorna. And we have Nicole as well, and Alison. Fantastic. Lovely to have you here. And it's been such a beautiful day here. I went out for a lovely 4-mile walk when I went to the post office to drop a certain wee mouse in the post box, and then went for a lovely walk and found all sorts of like wild meadows stuck between residential streets that looks as though nobody's been to visit them. It's great. I love finding the path less travelled by. Anyway, enough of that. So so I'm going to make a fox tonight. I'm going to make one of the remaining 5 foxes. Do you know, because I've had over 80 requests for Jubilee creatures, and then of course I had another, well, how many did I make to begin with? It was about 30 or something. So I've been making a lot of Jubilee creatures, and I feel almost as though I'm almost hitting the wall. You know that way, because I'm down to nearly single figures of how many I've got to do now, and I'm just kind of like, I want to not be making Jubilee creatures anymore. Much as I love them, I do love them, and I do love the foxes, and I do love the hedgehogs. And I realised that I have never made a fox. I don't think I've ever made a fox on a Brew and Blether, but do tell me if I am completely missing, if I've misremembered that. It's entirely possible. Anyway, so to save a bit of time, I have pre-cut my 10-gram block of clay, which is Fimo Professional Terracotta colour. And that is 3 grams of clay for the tail. And these are the paws, because they're black paws. And that's his crown. That's his flag pole, I should say. Because one thing I discovered is, having made all my little flags, because I've made, I printed off the Jubilee. I'm just getting one out. I printed off all these little flags. Found a JPEG of the Queen's Jubilee flag, and then printed them out onto matte photographic paper, which is excellent stuff, I have to say. Oh, now I'm just turning sideways. All right, Alison's saying, I don't think I've seen a fox. Brilliant, excellent. Well, that's good. You'll see one tonight. That's the plan. Back to these. So I printed them out on matte photo paper, then cut them out. And I've done this for all of them, but the first ones I did, and I stuck them on the poles, and I gave the poles to the creatures before they went into the oven. And then I discovered that the double-sided sticky tape, in the best Blue Peter manner, doesn't really do very well with heat. So yeah, so I've had to basically scrap all the original ones that I'd made and make up more of these flags. So these get put on once the wee creature comes out of the oven, and so that's the last thing which goes on. So that won't happen tonight because I'll bake him in the morning, but there we go. So yes, now the foxes are they're quite intensive. There's lots of bits to a fox, which is perhaps not surprising. Oh, I'll just do a quick check on, is the position okay? Can you see okay? Can you hear me okay? I'm assuming that all is well for now anyway. So, just doing my usual, making sure that there are as few air bubbles as possible. For some reason, I have been getting lots of air bubbles of late. Now, whether it's the heat, I don't know. It might be. Maybe it's just my technique, which is getting a bit woolly over the, after 13 years. Oh, and this is the first time that I've been able to, oh, thanks Lorna for confirming that, that's great. This is the first time that I've had a Brew and a Blether since I straddled my 13-year pivot point. Now, for those who don't know, I'm sure most of you do know who are watching this, but 13 years ago in 2009, I gave up my job as a lawyer and I started Quernus. And so the 30th of June 2009 was my very last day as a lawyer, and now, as it's the 5th of July, I have been a wee creature maker for longer than I was a lawyer, and I'm very, very happy to be able to say that. Oh, it's just such good news. Anyway, right, so again, flob removal with my trusty scalpel. I was just speaking to Lorna earlier on today about how my dad, who used to be a surgeon, he's a retired general surgeon who did lots of general surgery, including cholecystectomies and anything to do with the bowels. That's probably nothing that you need to know. But so I still use scalpels because he always had scalpels around the house, but not for what he used them for, I'm very pleased to say. So the scalpel is one of my essential tools that I must use, and it's very good for just popping out any air bubbles that there might be. I see that Sarah has joined us as well. Hello Sarah, lovely to have you here too. Yes, so and what I'll do as well, I'll do a speeded up version of this as well. I'll need to find the best music for it. Oh, that's always fun to work out what the music is. Now, there's quite a lot of more sculpting in the fox than there are with other wee creatures, and it's much more, because I've got to get his pointy nose right, and foxes are quite sort of thin, so it's really, I don't know if you can see that okay, but basically this is new clay that I've got, so it's actually quite, it's a lot softer than the other clay, this terracotta that I've had. There's a little air bubble there that I can just nick out. There we go. Oh. No, that's a big air bubble. Right, okay, I think I'm going to have to squish him and start again. Sometimes that happens when you think you've got just a small one. However, oh, and Alison's saying, I still have my dissection kit from uni. I don't think I know what you do, Alison, or did, I should say. So do feel free to share. That sounds disturbing. I hope this was in as part of your studies and not as a hobby. But hey, you tell me. Anyway, oh right, Nicole's suggesting the music from Tony Hart. Is that the do 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 do? That's the one, I think. I'm sure there's a name for it. Was that from Tony Hart now? Was that Vision On? Oh, you study zoology. Okay, that makes more sense now. Thank you. Oh, well, this is good to know then. Okay. But, I'm concerned that you still have it after all these years. Your dissection kit. Right. Well, it's all coming out today. Just as well, I can't keep on top of all the comments that quickly, but hey. Anyway, right, so this is me trying to get the fox's head Vision On is right, so I was right, so it is that one. You're right. I think I'll have to find out if I can get a royalty-free or a copyright-free version of it. I used to love that. That was really good. That was for the gallery, wasn't it? I don't think I ever submitted anything for the gallery. But I always thought, after watching it, I always thought that I should. But I can't draw for peanuts. I really can't. I wish I could. I am so... I won't say I'm envious because it's just lovely. I'm in awe. That's a better way of saying it. I'm in awe of the artists, particularly sculptors, who can draw as well. And Dragons and Beasties is a great case in point for that. She does wonderful, wonderful drawings as well as her beautiful sculptures. But you know, I've just never been able to do. I've never really wanted to do the drawing or the painting or anything. Anyway, right, little Fox is coming along now. They have quite long faces, so I'm making the face quite narrow as well. So although it might not seem that I'm doing very much, it is just sort of all quite subtle pressures, subtle movements. And what I will do now is just lightly press in where the eye holes are. There we go. So they're quite close together because that's what foxes are like. And I don't want his snout to be too fat because they've got snouts which are long and thin and quite narrow, basically. Right, okay, that's coming together well. All right. Oh, Alison's saying, I use it for crafting now and not for cooking as I once did. Oh my goodness. It's just, you know, you're not confessing to be the next Hannibal Lecter here, are you? I hope not. Oh my goodness. Reminds me of the Sherlock episode where Benedict Cumberbatch had kept an eyeball in the fridge. Just, you know, and thought it was perfectly normal. And we've got Christy here from Los Angeles. Oh, fantastic. We've gone international, folks. I love it. I love it. Right. Okay. That is more or less the body. And I now need to mark out his haunches because they all sit on their haunches now. So this is just, I don't quite know what this tool is, but it's essential. I use it for everything. It's wonderful. Now they don't, and it's just to lightly delineate where his haunches are, basically. And the trick is, of course, is to get them looking fairly equal on either side. Oh, just realised I've given a wee mark on his head. That's very good. And I'm softening out the lines just with my fingers. Just with the side of my thumbs and my, just the side of my thumbs, actually. No other. This is, do you know, it's strange. I know I do kind of whiffle a bit, but because I'm kind of speaking out loud and describing what I do, I'm having to actually think about what I do, which I don't normally do. It's funny because my dad or my mum will phone me and I'm working away and we'll be having a nice chat and my hands are just off doing their own thing and I don't really know what they're doing. But they're saying, oh, I can't keep you back from your work. And I'm like, I've never stopped working. It's, they think it's funny. But yeah, so my hands take over and I don't really know what they're doing until, like today, I'm kind of explaining my process. And then I'm like, oh, is that what I do? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's all a bit weird. That's why I do wonder, I mean, people do ask, do I do tutorials and things? And this isn't a tutorial, this is just me doing what I do. And I've given a few tutorials, but again, I find this it's very strange trying to explain things which I just do by second nature and they just appear, you know. You're right, Jennifer. I do channel them. I really do feel that they are coming from outside me, and I'm just following instructions as when I know what they want to be. Right. So that is the basic fox body, and again, just making sure there are no sharp lines. Everything's sort of blended and in proportion. I need to make sure that his tummy's kind of tucked under there as well. He's going to have his tail will curl around at the side. That'll help stabilize him because he's quite tall by comparison to other wee creatures. it must be said. I think the foxes are, in fact, how tall are they? I don't think I've ever measured them. He is, I must have, yep, nearly 2 inches, 5 centimetres tall, and he's obviously got his ears to go on top of that. I do like the foxes. They're such noble creatures. Some of my early foxes are quite pudgy. They're funny. It's so nice to see the progress that they go through. And occasionally I will get requests to reattach an ear or two, or a paw or a tail. And to see how the wee creatures have evolved over time it's a real privilege. The only trouble is, if somebody's had a wee creature for a long time, like I recently fixed the ears on a wee a cake mouse, so a little mouse holding a slice of cake, and because it must have been about 10 years ago or something I'd made it, so the clay just by being exposed to the environment just got very mucky. So trying to replace white ears with new clay, yeah, it'll take a little while. It's like sort of putting new shingles on a roof. You can tell they stick out a mile away until they've kind of been weathered in. So it's a bit like that with the wee creature sometimes. Anyway, right. Oh, I'm fiddling now. I'm fiddling. Oh, a hare crossed your path, Nicole, the other day. They are beautiful. I love them. They're just like stretched out rabbits. That's kind of the way I think of them. They're wonderful. I mean, moon gazing hares I like in particular. And I'm sure I must have shown you, I made my ring holder, and my rings, which I can't wear when I'm working, out of sparkly black clay, and I made it sort of based on a hare, but much more stylized than I normally do. And he's got one ear up, which is strengthened with wire, and that's what my rings sit on. So my little rabbit, or hare, I think it probably is a hare, keeps an eye on my rings as long as I remember to pick them up at the end of the night. I even have a little note to myself on the door as I'm leaving saying rings, because occasionally, and don't tell Enrique, occasionally I'll forget to pick them up. Oh, there's flob everywhere, my goodness. That's probably from being out walking. Anyway, now, speaking of channeling, actually, this is one thing which I will be making an announcement about soon, but it's something that Hayley, my roommate, who some of you may know, is a Reiki master. She's brilliant, or Reiki master. And she does tarot readings and Reiki. I mean, she does amazing stuff. Angelic healings, channelings, mediumship. She's really very, very amazing indeed. And we are looking at ways of working together where, because we creatures are very good at making people happy. I think that's fair to say. But I think they would also be very good working in conjunction with Hayley at offering more focus protection and specific healing energy and things like that. So we've yet to work out the details. You heard it here first. But I love this idea, and I've been commissioned to make one so far. So Hayley can she can tune in, find out what stone, what crystal, what healing, what's needed best to provide help or healing or protection or whatever it might be. I mean, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm fascinated by it, and I've learned so much more since meeting Hayley, which is must be about 4 years ago or something. She and I have been friends. So I'm really excited about it. I've ordered some rune stones, because that's one thing I'm thinking about doing. Runes are wonderful. And crystals as well, yes, absolutely, Lorna. So holding crystals or runes, because runes are very powerful as well. Here's me getting the eyeballs again. Now, these need to be a little bit smaller. Now, I'm just going to, I'm going off camera for a bit, because I'm having to do this by no glasses eyes. If you'll forgive me while I just get this done. There we go. That's them. I actually have new glasses. I will come back to my idea in a second, or maybe I won't. Who knows? It's a Blether after all. You know what I'm like. I've got new varifocals now, and they're great. I hadn't had new glasses for like nearly 5 years, over 5 years. So it's rather lovely that I can see again more with my reading than with distance. But I still, when I'm choosing the eyes and when I'm working really close up, I still peer over the top of my glasses. But I can actually see better now working at a distance than I could at the last Brew and Blether. This is great. Actually, this is very good to know. I've just realised. So I don't have to be sort of like bending over and getting in your way or going off camera because I'm having to be like 3 inches away from whatever I'm working with. Anyway, weird part when they just look very strange without their eyes pushed in. So I'm just going to do that lightly with my ball shaper. And again, because foxes have got quite narrow eyes, they're quite close together. So yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, and just push them in a little bit more so that they are even on either side. And sometimes, because if the clay shaper catches the edge of the clay like that, it gives them a very sort of surprised expression. It's kind of like, oh, what are you doing? What's going on here? Honestly. Anyway, right, the next thing I need to do is cut out the ears. I haven't done that yet, actually. So I shall just roll them out. So, sorry, here we go. Jennifer is saying, I've been fascinated by runes and crystals most of my life. Yep, I own so many mineral specimens now. I got my dad's university collection. Wow. Now that's impressive. That would be wonderful. They are amazing. You know, there's rocks, crystals, everything is energy at the end of the day. I'm just rolling out the ears at the moment while we're saying this. So, you know, is it, and then, you know, we are all energy. I don't understand how it works, but it does. I mean, there's such an amazing feeling in this studio with Hayley next door where she works her magic. It's just wonderful. So I kind of, you know, it just seems like the next logical step, you know, because we get on so well together. He's not going to be a 3-eared fox. That was just me getting the right size, by the way. I did cut out 3 there. Yes, so he's, you know, it just seems like the next logical step to do it. Just so that we can, well, offer something a little bit different. Now, I found a shop. This is what often happens. When an idea occurs, then things tend to happen really quite quickly. And so I went on Etsy and I found a shop in Stockport, which is just down the road from me here. They only sell online, but they've got a unit, so the chances are I could probably pop in one day, the same way as anybody can pop in here if they, you know, get in touch with me first of all. And they will, you know, so I've ordered like sets of runes. I've got books to read up on it, but basically Hayley would be able to tune in using a photograph or something like that, something personal, and find out what's needed. Hey. I mean, it's just, I love this idea that, you know, the wee creatures are so good at making people happy in the first place anyway, that the idea of making it a bit more personal, a bit more focused, there's just something about that feels right. So watch this space. So yes, so there's lots of different meanings for the runes, and it might just be a case of potluck. Or you can ask for like a mini reading from Hayley, which she can do in her own time and at a distance, and just needs a photo basically. And then I would give the wee creature whichever rune was deemed the one that is needed at the time, and Hayley can then imbue it with healing energy or protection energy, or again whatever is needed. Now I'm just trimming the top of the ears because fox's ears have got black tips on them. So it's just a question. I had actually prepared the black tips before. Here's one I prepared earlier. And then it's just making sure that they are together. Now, because the clay is quite soft tonight because it is warm. If I put the air conditioning on, I know, I always get so excited that I've got air conditioning. But if I put it on, you probably wouldn't be able to hear me very well. It would just be an annoying, incessant hum at the back, in the background. So we just have to put up with some soggy clay. Well, that's a wee bit too tall, so I'll just trim a tiny sliver off that. There we go. So, yes, it is fun doing these. And of course, he's got to fit, or she, I suppose. I suppose most of the Jubilee creatures have been women because it's the Queen after all. But for some reason, I do know when they're boys and when they're girls. And I think this one might be a he. Not entirely sure. I'll tell you tomorrow who's waiting for a fox and whose fox this will be. So somebody will be having their fox made in full Technicolor. Right. Right. So we're kind of it's assembly really. I'm just going to now do the tail. Get the tail at least prepared. The shape of the tail. Oh dear. Sorry, little fox. Well, right. I'm just, whilst I'm rolling this, I can actually look sideways at my phone to see the comments. Nicole is asking, where did I get the little crowns? They are actually, they're beads, actually. They're Tibetan silver beads. So you would just put like spacer beads, but, you know, like, a bit like, I suppose, what's it called? Is that Pandora or something? Where you've got like a necklace or something and then you put beads round about it. So just found them on eBay and then got lots of them. I think I had to buy about 60 of them to make sure that I had enough crowns. I keep an eye out for this sort of thing. You know, I have kept an eye out for different types of crowns. So there might be more regal creatures happening at some point. Who knows? And I invariably, I always buy more than I can use. And I have several sort of ideas in production at any given time. So I have actually just today received some tiny spoons. In fact, let me see if I can, just as a little bit of a, here we go. These have come in terribly non-ecologically friendly, but these have come in from China. I've not even opened them yet, or opened the packet. I'll need tweezers to get them out. So these tiny spoons, right, which are so cute, are perfect honey spoons for my picnic bears, my teddy bears. So I have tiny little jars of honey as well. They came in a couple of weeks ago. So basically, it's, you know, I kind of have just been ordering them in piecemeal, and they come in piecemeal. I have yes, I have picnic baskets as well. So the time is coming pretty soon, actually, when there will be many, many more picnic bears. So, and yes, you are so right, Jennifer. Miniature shopping is just marvelous. I think I read a meme yesterday. I think it was like, when you realize, you know, that moment when you realize that doing crafts and buying craft supplies are two separate hobbies. And I was like, yeah, that's why I have such a large studio, because you can see this is where I work effectively. You know, it's just a very small area that I work in, but everything else is needed for the post boxes and the bubble wrap and the accessories and all the rest of it. Right, anyway, this is me getting the foxtail into shape. So there, that's coming along. Now we're missing some whites, some white colours here. Here's a bit of clay, a sheet of clay that I have rolled out thinly already. Now I'm going to use one of my small diamond cutters for this, and let's do it over here. So that's for his chest and under his chin, and then I'm going to just, this is actually, I do like doing this, but this is to get the tail, you know, because foxes have white tips on their brushes, as I think they're called, like basil brush. Boom, boom. Anyway, so all I'm doing here is just cutting out uneven just doing them in either small or slightly bigger, but basically just trimming the edges. So that's going to be the edge of the broom. That's far too much, but I just enjoy it so much, so I just keep going and see how it goes. Right, so I'll take them out. And then the idea is to cut it off. That's about right. And then this will get wound round. I'll just move that out of the way. Oh, I'll give him an edge to that first of all. And this is going to go on the end of the tail. Slight overlap at the top. It will just be wound round, keeping it as together or as upright so it doesn't basically just disappear off at an angle. Trim it lightly, and then this is where you need very clean fingers. Pinch it into the top, and I will give it a good wipe. And then that sort of adds an extra tip to his brush, and it's a white tail. So it's not it's actually formed by a white mountainous tip, if you like. And yeah, and because my fingers are slightly brown or terracotta, let's be honest, then this is where you can actually see how well wet wipes work. I mean, look how much colour has come off from the various flob cleanings I've done so far. Right, so I'll let that cool. That's the tip of his brush. And actually, before I put it to one side, I'll just lightly shape it into more of a tip, because all my fox's tails go up at the edges, at the end, I should say. Right, okay, so that's his tail. Yeah, quick wipe of the fingers to get as much of that orange colour off as possible. And with his under his chin and his breast area, which is in white, this is where polymer clay, have I told you how much I love polymer clay? Because you can do so much with it. And it's remarkable when you start teasing it lightly. I mean, this is really, I'm barely touching it really, but it has so much elasticity in it, if that's the right word. Obviously it's going very much larger than when I first cut it. And this bit is a bit that's going to go under his chin, but it also needs to come out a little bit at the top, not as much at the side. And it looks like a manta ray at the moment. It happens sometimes. So the idea is that it'll go on either side of his snout. All right, oh, that way around. Oh, it's so sticky. You've got to be patient. You've got to have the patience of a saint, I think, for this stuff. Right, and then I can do the final shaping whilst it's, sticking it to the table. So I'm pushing it in at the side. Don't worry about the long pointy bit. That's going to get snipped off in a second. So that's going to be the top of his nose, under his nose. And then again, just getting most of the flob off, because there's always flob. Tales from the flob. That's maybe my autobiography is going to be called that, maybe. Right, okay. Now it's very, very thin, so it's very, very fragile. Oh, have I mentioned that I love polymer clay before? Sorry, Alison, I feel that I may be repeating myself here a little bit. Right, this is where tissue blades and scalpels come into their own. So this is me just very, very gently, very carefully. Because it's so thin now, it's very, very fragile, basically. So, first of all, top of the nose goes. Ah, no, it's broken. broken. Oh, that's what happens when it gets too fragile. Dear me, right. Honestly, and it's too hot, of course. That's the main reason why that broke. Right, so let's start again. I'll try not to be so, right. I'll concentrate for this. I'll concentrate. Right, so this clay is cut out at the very thinnest setting, but as you can see, that's much thin. It's much thicker than how I ended up doing it. So I'm tucking in the edges to make sure that they're not fluffy. Right, I'm going to do this at normal speed. I may not speak for a little bit while I focus on this. That's probably what I need to be. That's what I need to do. Yeah, this benefits from being in a cooler environment than I currently have it at the moment. But hey, it is what it is. We'll get there. Right, so the same thing again, kind of creating this sort of slightly rounded at the edges for his snout, so it comes up on either side. Back on there, do a little bit of shaping, pushing it together, extending the top. There we go, and then just nick it off at the top. Right, second time lucky. There you go. It's probably because I was handling it for longer than I would normally. It just that the littlest, the least that you can, oh, I need to trim it a little bit more. The least you can handle clay when it's this thin, the better. It really does make a difference. All right, and this doesn't have to be equal by any means because, well, when have you seen the front of a fox's chest looking completely equal? Right, let's do this again. Okay. So it's going on his nose. And now, there we go. Right. This is where I now have to make sure that then it's straight and I press it into the clay without making any air bubbles. There you go. Right. Oh, I'm glad that worked eventually. Oh, we're over time, sorry. Again, I may have to finish this chap off because there's a fair bit more to do. As you can see, like foxes do take a bit of time. Right, and then just getting, there are always air bubbles. When it's this fine, I think it's actually quite impossible to avoid them. But polymer, the wet wipes are very good at, because it doesn't take much to go, to conceal any of the pock marks I've made when I'm getting them out. Right, now, again, he looks a bit odd. Oh, and this is where I use the edge of my clay shaper just to blend in the clay so that it's not sticking out at all. Right, yeah, he needs a good clean up as well. Right, so looks a bit odd just now. The last thing which will make him look less odd is having a nose. So I'm going to put a nose on him. And foxes' noses are quite dainty, actually. So it's important to just make sure it's not too big. It goes on the end. And I'm pinching it into place. There we go. That's pretty good. Excellent. Now, trying to make sure that his muzzle hasn't got too thick because he's obviously got an extra layer of clay on it. Now, he needs his crown put on first, and then I put the ears on round about him. I'll lay him down so you can actually see him. He's just, oh, he's a little sweetheart. It's definitely a he. Don't ask me why. But there's so many little bits of white lying around that he's picking them up now. So let's just get rid of them. And crown. So I'm going to glue the crown on with, I've just got some of this high tack all-purpose, very sticky glue. It's just white glue. And I just dab a little tiny bit. Oh, this is quite a new box, so it's a tiny bit, doesn't really happen. So cotton, no, this is a cocktail stick, but has been very well dipped in glue. So all I'm doing is lightly dabbing all the way around the rim of the crown. And because it's quite new, it'll take a little bit to dry. The old stuff I was using, which is called Sobo, that just dried out as soon as you looked at it. Now that's the front of the crown, because it's got two separate little, overlapping things. I don't know. It's got to be the front of the crown, and it's got to be facing straight on. Like, you couldn't have it in between. So this is just what's needed. So, Your Majesty, I hereby crown you. And just by applying a little bit of pressure side to side, that helps to embed it and glue it, key it into the polymer clay itself. So pretty securely put on the crown. So yeah, actually let's give him his ears, and then I think I might have to call it for tonight, because it's nearly 9:15, and my husband, who is back home, yay, is at home waiting to cook me dinner, or at least provide me with a cup of tea, a warm cup of tea. Right, so this is just more, I'm doing this more by eye than anything else. I'm obviously having to cut them a little steeper than I would normally, at more of an angle, because the crown is taking up most of the space where the ears would go. So I'm doing that very roughly by eye. That's a wee bit too long. All right. And then my usual trusty extender medium, which is a new pot. Oh, and this is what it looks like. I don't know whether I've ever shown you, but this is what it actually looks like. I mean, it's like coconut oil. Like, it's weird, but it works. Anyway, so that's my new pot, and very exciting it is to be using a new pot. So again, just making sure that it's slightly curved, and then I've got to make sure that the edge of the bottom edge of his ear, oh, did I go a little bit off piece there, needs to be above his eye. That's why it's got to be sort of cut a little bit shorter than it would other. Oh, stop falling over. Wait till he gets his tail. That'll make a big difference. Right, same again here. Curled round slightly at the edge. Make sure that it's even with the other side. All right, lightly positioned, and then small clay shaper. Pull it down at the side, push it up, and then it can be kind of more brought up along the side of the crown. So it's much more sort of integral. And then I'm just lightly pressing the backs of the ears. Doesn't have to be a perfect join by any means, but it just to make sure that it sticks in place. The extender medium will really make a very firm join. It's remarkable stuff, really, for fixing wet clay to wet clay. And it's meant for oil paint. Go figure. Right. There you go. And then I shall just lightly score the inside of the ear, fluff them up a bit, and that will help with the actual angle, the position of the ear as well. Oh, what a sweetheart. What a sweetheart. I really do love to see them appear. They make me smile. There we go. Right, so there isn't actually a huge amount more to do. Just his tail and his paws and his flagpole, of course. So I will finish that off tomorrow, and we'll post a picture of the finished. Well, obviously I'll be posting a picture of the finished one, because this wee fox will be going off to a new home somewhere. I'll just need to see who's going to be coming up first. I usually do them alphabetically. It's not terribly, it's not very scientific, but so it works. So yes, and I have pictures of snails to post tomorrow as well, and there will be more of these wee foxes. But I won't be in until later in the morning, because first thing tomorrow I am going to be taking my sculpture, my bust of Zeus, and taking it to Martin Norman Sculptures, who's going to cast it in bronze resin for me. So expect more news about that when it happens. So thank you for joining me tonight. Sorry I can't finish it so far, but we're getting there. It'll take me probably another half an hour's work to finish off this little fox. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being patient, and for running. Maybe I should just make these 3/4 of an hour, because I invariably seem to be finishing at quarter to the hour. Anyway, lovely to have you all on the call. You're very welcome, Alison. And yeah, I'll be in touch tomorrow. Have a lovely evening. All right, night night.